Jen, we don't ever really do this, but it's a pre-show moment.
It's been a while, but we like to do a reader survey, and now is the time. So in this week's show notes, there is going to be a link to the reader survey. It will take you about 10 minutes to just ask you, like, if you've bought books or, what your favorite episodes are, what episodes you'd like for us to do. And it just gives us a lot of information about who you are and what you are looking for as we start getting ready to plan. Are you ready for it, everybody? Season 8. So please take the survey. You can find it in show notes, or you could go to fateandmates.net/survey.
Or you can click on the chapter title maybe right now.
It's a lot of great information for us. And like I said, we want you to have a great experience as a listener. So take our survey.
Again, that's fateandmates.net/survey, or you can click on the chapter title, or you could head to show notes and the link will be there. And now,
saddle up, everybody. Well, Sarah, you've talked me into something.
I did. And I don't actually know why I wanted to do this episode.
You were very insistent. Like it was like something came over you.
So here's the way this works, everybody. We are now 7 seasons into this Michigas. And it's chaos here always at Theta Mates because we've basically talked about everything. So when we get to, there's some things that we think, oh, well, we talked about that in season 1, so let's repeat that, like space. We did space recently, right?
Sure.
And so like we had done space before, and then we had more books to talk about. But then sometimes like something comes up and you think, we've never talked about horses.
Probably because I've said Jen doesn't like books about girls and their horses.
Not for Jen. Except, everybody, that's a big lie, because Jennifer reads romance. One time wrote an entire piece for Kirkus magazine.
It wasn't for Kirkus.
It wasn't for Kirkus. Can you imagine if it was for Kirkus?
Lori Muchnick right now is like, excuse us.
It should have been for Kirkus.
We are
Kirkus
a serious
should think about
publication.
adding this column into their magazine, and why don't you pitch it right now, Jen?
Yeah, I'm going to text Lori right now.
Lori listens. This is it. This is the pitch.
This is the pitch. Just keep listening, Lori. Wait, are we done bantering, or is that it?
You wanted to talk about Pride and Prejudice. Well, you didn't, but you said don't respond to me here because, okay, listen, everybody.
Okay, this is funny. Go for it. Yeah.
I'm delighted. I'm having a great... Listen, 2025 is real hard, but somebody in film knew that it would be. And so on April 20th, they are releasing the 20th anniversary edition of the Keira Knightley, Matthew McFadden Pride and Prejudice.
Can I ask a dumb question? Was this originally released in the movie theater?
Oh my God, Jen.
No, I'm not trying to be dumb. Or what?
Keira Knightley was like a huge star.
Yeah, I guess I thought it was like a BBC show.
No, that's the first one. The first one was a BBC show. That's like 7 hours long and stars Colin Firth.
Wait, wasn't there a movie though?
There's
from the 90s, but it was Sense and Sensibility.
Also Emma.
I remember that as a movie.
Emma with Gwyneth Paltrow, Sense and Sensibility with...
How could you have a 7-hour movie? You just said it was like 7 hours on the BBC.
No, you're thinking of...
I'm not thinking of any of them, everybody, clearly.
Everybody. Jen is not an Austen fan, so forgive her for this. There's a BBC version of Pride and Prejudice that's like 6 hours long and stars Colin Firth.
It was not a movie. It was a TV show.
It was a TV. It was like miniseries.
A miniseries. Now they call them limited series because they can't call them miniseries anymore. I don't know why.
Why not?
I guess it's not sexy. I'll ask Janine.
Ask Janine. We'll get to the bottom of this miniseries versus limited series thing. But I don't know. Probably because they don't like the idea of mini because of, I don't know, patriarchy. Anyway. It's always patriarchy. Anyway, that was the beginning. A lot of people really felt like that was the coming online of Austen fans, even though there were black and white Austen movies as well. But like this one was the one where Colin Firth comes out of the water and there's like lots of drama and whatever. It's 6 hours long. It's fine. You're never going to watch it. Then in the 90s, there was like the late 90s delivered us Emma with Gwyneth Paltrow. Sense and Sensibility, I feel like, was in there with Emma Thompson and Kate Winslet and Hugh Grant. Fun fact, Emma Thompson wrote that movie. And I don't, I know.
I'm just going to let
she
this wash
won an
over me
Oscar
like a
for
wave.
it. She won an Oscar for writing a movie that, yes, fine. That's directed by Ang Lee. People think he's very talented. Then the Emma one is Gwyneth Paltrow, and the no, none of these are original. They were all done before. But the one that was my first Emma movie was Gwyneth Paltrow and Jeremy Northam.
My first Emma movie was Clueless.
Oh, well, I guess my first Emma movie was also Clueless. And then this one. And then Anya Taylor Thomas. That's Jonathan Taylor Thomas. Anyway, Anya Taylor-Joy did an Emma movie right before the pandemic. And the reason why I know this, fun fact, everybody, here's a personal story from Sarah's history. In March of 2020, that movie was out. It was in the movie theaters. And Eric and I got a babysitter for our small baby. And we were like, and Eric was like, I know you love Emma. We're going to go see this movie. And we went to the movies, and it was the one and only time I've ever gotten a telephone call from a babysitter saying she was so sick. She was like, I need you to come back. I'm so sick. I have to go home. And my babysitter had COVID. So I never saw it in the movie theater. I saw it, I don't know, last year or the year before. Anyway, that's a really fun one. That's fun. These are all fun. But the reality is that in 2005, Keira Knightley, at the ripe old age of, I don't know, probably 19 or something, was Lizzie Bennet in a film adaptation of Pride and Prejudice, starring Matthew McFadyen, who is my favorite Englishman. And also Linda's favorite, because Linda has a bust of him as Darcy in her house, which is wild.
I've seen that thing. I don't think I knew it was that guy.
It's that guy. It's not Darcy. It's that guy as Darcy. And anyway, listen, it's a classic. I really enjoy it a lot. I know it's controversial to say, but it is my favorite of the Pride and Prejudice adaptations.
It's not. You're allowed to have your favorite.
People feel strongly about Colin Firth. That's fine. And I'm super excited because it's coming out April 20th. And my daughter, that is also my daughter's first.
So they're having a rerun of it in the theaters.
The 20th anniversary. It's been remastered for now. And they're releasing it for a limited time in movie theaters.
A mini run in theaters, yeah.
And my daughter is very excited. We have purchased tickets. It's happening. And I'm thrilled.
I'm so excited for everyone.
I'm very excited for myself and for everybody else who loves this movie. And listen, we deserve nice things, is what I'm saying.
We do. I'm sure that I have read Pride and Prejudice. I was an English major. It feels like it must have happened. But I don't remember it.
I feel like you probably didn't, though.
Maybe I didn't.
I was not an English major, but I did take a lot of English classes, and it never, came up.
Maybe it's just more of a romance thing. Anyway, I did download an audiobook version, I think, of Pride and Prejudice by Mary Jane, with Mary Jane Wells, I think.
Well, you know who else has done an audiobook of Pride and Prejudice? Is Julia Whelan.
Oh, I thought, well, maybe I will like it better.
If you subscribe to Julia Whelan's Audiobrary, which is Julia Whelan, everybody loves Julia Whelan, everybody. Everybody loves her. She's amazing. She's one of the greatest audiobook narrators ever. And when she launched Audiobrary, as part of it, she had Pride and Prejudice already preloaded. So you can go download that and listen to Julia Whelan read Pride and Prejudice. It's a fun book. There's no sex in it.
I just feel like I got really called out there in a way.
No, but I do believe 1,000,000,000% that if Jane Austen knew that the literary descendants of her are writing multiple orgasms via oral before anybody touches a penis, she would be into it.
Okay, I agree with you. I don't know anything more, but I'm that seems like sure.
I feel like she would be really proud of herself and of us.
I like that. Okay.
Welcome, everyone, to Fated Mates. I'm Sarah McLean. I read romance novels and I write them.
I'm Jennifer Prokop, a romance reader and editor.
And this week we're talking about horses.
Yes.
Which is, they're in stuff. They're in a lot of things. Hey, here's a fun thing that merges movies and horses.
Oh, okay.
As you all know, there's been a pretty significantly world-changing television show that is based on a series of romance novels, historical romance novels. It's called Bridgerton.
I've heard of the show.
And I remember when prior to Bridgerton, I had a conversation with somebody in Hollywood or in Los Angeles. I don't know. Do we say Hollywood? I don't think we do. I'm not in that world, so... If you ever needed evidence that Sarah has no contact to LA, this is it. I refer to it as Hollywood. But once I had a conversation with somebody and I was like, could you explain to me why historicals never, like, we see them periodically, but like we never really have big adaptations. And they said, because horses are expensive on movie sets because they die. And I was like, pardon? Now, listen, if you're out there right now and you know about movies and I'm just talking out of my ass, know that I'm not. I'm talking out of someone else's ass.
Someone else's ass, yes.
Someone else told me this. But apparently, like, horses are super high strung, which actually does feel like...
Sure.
I have a couple of books on my list this week that are about high strung horses. So horses are pretty high strung, apparently. And also they, like, stress out on movies, like, in general, which makes sense. And, like, movie sets are weird. Like,
that does seem, yeah, okay.
If you're a horse, and then they're like, now you're in, like, you're just a normal horse living your life, and then suddenly you're in Regency, England.
I mean, what's a horse to do?
Of course you're stressing out. You don't know. Somebody tweeted, or I saw a thread yesterday, and it said, do dogs understand elevators, or do they just go, I guess I'm going to take a ride in the World Changer? Anyway, I wish I could remember who wrote that, but Threads has a terrible search, so I'm not going to be able to find it. Anyway, if it was you, thank you for the laugh. And but the point is about these horses, they get onto movie sets and then they freak out because, I don't know, strangers are riding them. And sometimes there are, like, fake guns and, like, battles and, like,
shooting
races.
And stuff. Yeah, okay.
These are show horses. These are not, like, working horses. And they freak out and they die, apparently.
Okay, I feel like this entire episode, if you actually know things about horses, I'm going to need you to turn this episode off right now. Because we are about to say the most ignorant shit.
I have been on a horse one time in my whole life.
Same. And the entire time I was like, oh no, I don't like this at all. No one should be this high off of the ground. This is a ridiculous thing. And it just was not very comfortable. I had a friend named Bridget in high school who, I guess she rode horses. She had this thing she said, which I really remember. We were watching Young Guns and she said, you can really tell which actors have never been on a horse before. And I was like, you can?
Oh, horse people right now are like, of course you can. I know. We hear you, everybody. We know.
Lou Diamond Phillips apparently had no fucking idea what he was doing. Or he did. Or was the only one. I don't remember which way.
Doing it, though. Let me tell you. Lou Diamond Phillips can get it.
Yeah,
Young Guns, Lou Diamond Phillips, and now Lou Diamond Phillips. I saw him in something recently, and he was super hot.
He's been hot his entire life.
This is important horse information.
Yeah, our horse information is like, why do you have to die when you break your leg as a horse? Like, I remember as a kid, maybe that's why I just was never into it. I was like...
It's interesting because I think you're either really into horses or you're not really into horses. There's no middle way.
There's a lot of books about girls and their horses. Black Beauty.
Sure, Black Beauty. Name another.
There are other ones. I don't know other ones, but I just felt like there were a lot of them. Like
Spirit,
this was like a big
there's
thing.
a television show, Spirit. They like that.
Okay. Well, anyway, what I remember...
My Little Pony.
Yeah, I remember that. But I don't think those were real
ponies. I was really
ponies.
into My Little Pony.
And I'm sure I've said this on the podcast, but I am fairly convinced that actually a lot of romantasy is just like girls and their horses, but it's dragons.
All right. I like this.
I do. I really feel this. I was like, I think that romantasy is like filling a very deep void in people. They're like, there's books about girls and their horses. Where do we go next? There's something about a horse that's just like different than another kind of animal relationship you have with an animal, right? I mean, it is very, very deep. People really get into it. So anyway, I have no idea why you were like, let's do horses. And I have even less of an idea why I was like, yes, absolutely, let's.
I know.
But
Well,
here
it's
we are.
interesting because then I feel like we have to discuss the fact that, speaking of when a horse breaks its leg, you have to put it down. Terrible. Terrible. I have two books that I want to talk about related to that specific thing. But yesterday we were having a sort of like mini meeting for Fated Mates, and Eric happened to be standing in my office. So we were having like a quick conversation about something. And then we were talking, and I said, oh, well, let's do horses tomorrow. And then I was like, well, it'll have to be a short episode. Like, I don't know what we're going to say about horses. And Eric, as he's walking away, was like, well, you could talk about that one book that you talk about all the time where the horse falls off a cliff. And I was like, that's a terrible. That was bad.
That was bad. Even I was like, this is bad.
This is bad. That is Judith McNaught's A Kingdom of Dreams, everybody.
Which we did a whole episode on. Yeah.
We did a whole episode on it, and I still say it's one of the greatest historical romance novels ever written. Quote me on it. But I do feel like in 2025, one of the few things I feel like I have to content warn every time I reference a book is that at the beginning of Kingdom of Dreams, like that horse is important.
Yes.
And I think that's where like I started to really think about what we were going to talk about today, because when I think about horses and romance, I mean, I'm not going to lie, that is the first book I think about.
Okay, it's not the first book I think about. Maybe you tell me.
Well, we'll start here with what's the first book we think about?
This week's episode of Fated Mates is brought to you by 1001 Dark Nights, publishers of Crowns and Courtships, a royal romance collection.
If you've been listening to Fated Mates recently, you know we're kind of wild about these romance collections coming out from 1001 Dark Nights because we love an anthology. They're amazing because not only do you get short, delicious bites of romance for when you're on the go or like when you just you're not sure like what you want to read next, and you just want something quick that really slaps. But they're also great because these collections have romance novelists who the whole industry just sort of acknowledges do the work and know how to do the job. This one is a royal romance collection with Claire Contreras, Jennifer Armentrout, Lexi Blake, and Skye Warren. Those are four
amazing names.
I mean, you hear all the time. And this one covers royal romance, which is so fun because it's all about power and money and intrigue and all the like heavy pressures of being a royal in the world.
All those things.
I can't say it without laughing, but man, do I eat it up when like these royal princes are just like, oh, I've never felt a feeling. It's so hard to be me. Why do I love that so much? I don't know, but you probably do too. And so you're going to get scandalous courtships, forbidden romance, and a truly great romance from these four. So head over right now and get your royal romance on.
So if you are interested in 1001 Dark Nights, Crowns, and Courtships, it is available with your monthly subscription to Kindle Unlimited and also in paperback. So click on the chapter title right now to be taken to buy the book if your podcasting app supports it. Thanks to 1001 Dark Nights for sponsoring this week's episode.
The first book I think about is A Kingdom of Dreams. And it is because, listen, I strongly believe that animals should not be on page in a romance novel unless they are relevant to the romance. I think that about cats, dogs, birds, pets of all kind. They got to be relevant to the romance, or else why the hell am I learning about this animal, right? Why do I care about this animal? The only person who is allowed to write a dog that is not relevant to the romance is Elizabeth Hoyt, because she clearly loves dogs. And like, there's a dog in every book. But often the dog is related to the character. The dog is a stand-in for the hero in those books. Let's be honest. Anyway, that's a separate conversation.
Animals are always symbols. You've heard me say it
Animals always mean something and colors always mean something. It's true. So this is all true. The point is that Kingdom of Dreams is the one I think about whenever I think about a horse book. And the reason why is because that horse, who the hero loves with his whole entire being, has never loved another thing the way he loves this horse, right? And this horse is the most loyal, faithful, magnificent steed you've ever encountered. He, like, its loyalty is it's immeasurable to the hero, right? This horse will do whatever the hero asks it to do. And the heroine, being a kind of obnoxious jerk at the beginning of this book, like in a third of the way through this book, steals the hero's horse, intending to escape on it, and then accidentally does not realize that she is riding off into the darkness, urges it to take a jump that it refuses to take, and then pushes it to take it a second time. And in the jump, the horse bucks the heroine off its back so that she does not die when it plummets to its death.
It's terrible.
And the hero is so furious with her. And it is honestly, I think, a magnificent moment because there are few things a heroine can do in romance that I would allow a hero to be absolutely unhinged angry about. And in this particular situation, like, she realizes in the moment that, like, she doesn't realize that, like, what's on the other side of the jump is like a cliff that is going to kill them. She's being, like, rash in this decision that she's made. And once it happens, she's devastated by, like, what she's done. And he is broken by the loss of this, like, horse that is so important to him. This, like, creature that has been so loyal to him. And ultimately, at the end of that book, there's, like, this other test of loyalty that comes into play. Go listen to the long episode. And, like, what did you say? The horse, like, animals always mean something. Like, the horse is loyalty, and he loses loyalty, and then he has to find it again, right?
Yeah.
But he has to, like, kill the horse because he's not dead at the bottom of it's terrible. Listen, you guys, this is terrible. That is the book I think of because that horse is so important to the text. What is the book you think of?
Well, I have two, and I have like it's funny that I didn't think of one until we were talking about this question, which I love. So I'll talk about This Fierce Splendor by Iris Johansen second, because that's what caused me to write the Who Did It Better on a Horse, which is what we started joking about, and we never actually talked about it. We can in a minute. But there was a Harlequin Presents I fucking loved. Melinda Cross was the author. A Very Private Love was the name of this book. And I read this book. It was in my local library. And I would, like, turn it in. And then, like, a couple months later, I was like a rereader, even from the very beginning, to check it out again. And in this book is about a woman named Valerie. And she's like a reporter. And she's going down to Kentucky to a horse show, and she's going to write this big expose about, like, what happens. And there's this, like, once in a lifetime horse is going to be there. I did not, like, I literally just rethought of this today.
Once in a lifetime horse?
I don't know what that means.
That's made
like,
up. We don't know what that is.
Like Secretariat or some shit like that. Okay.
Oh, it's like a winner.
Oh, yeah, like a
like I got to go
horse.
take a picture with Secretariat. Got it.
Yeah.
I'm
okay.
with you now.
So she's going, actually, it was like a horse show, if I remember correctly. So the horse was going to be on sale or something. I don't know. I don't remember because I have not reread this book. 1986 is when this book came out.
1986, a deep cut.
Here's the part I remember. So there is this, very private guy that she, like, kind of runs into. His name's Charles Rissom. And Valerie, and he is, like, actually an entrepreneur, but everybody thinks he's just the buyer for Rissom. You know what I mean? Like, essentially, he says, here's my real identity, because he is instantaneously in love with her.
Harlequin Presents, so nobody is who they say they are.
Of course. So anyway, the deal is, though, like, he kind of sets her up. He thinks He gives her some little piece of information to like test and see if she really is in love with him. Of course, but
These
she doesn't
idiots.
print it. She doesn't print it in his article. And then he like invites her to his home. And she like was not a horse person, but he is. And I just remember like one of the things that's like really clear to her is that Charles deeply loves this horse, like loves this horse, but he is this rich guy and he feels like he has to sell it. You know what I mean? Like he's torn essentially between his
It's an asset.
Yeah.
But it's
exactly.
actually somebody he loves.
Yes.
He has to learn to accept his love. Do they keep the horse in the end?
I'm sure they must have, right?
I mean, that's how that would end. Sure.
Of course. It's a romance novel, Sarah, so I'm sure.
The horse is representative of the hero's love.
There you go. I was very into the whole like world of the horse show. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like rich people, talking about business and over horse flesh and all that stuff. All right. Now, the other one, and this is because I was a dirty girl, was This Fierce Splendor by Iris Johansen, which is the first book I remember reading where they fucked on a horse.
Where they did it on a horse.
Yeah. And my friend and I in high school were like, the fuck did we just read? And
listen, this was a thing.
This was a thing. And so then at some point when I first started reviewing romance again, I used to review for the Book Queen. And I wrote a series of really funny posts that were like, who did it better?
Lori Muchnick from Kirkus Reviews.
Yes. Who did it better on a horse? Who did it better on an elevator? Who did better on a pool table?
The answer is Sebastian Lord St. Vincent on that last one, obviously.
I don't even remember if he was in there. Anyway, the thing that was really crazy is I could not for the life of me remember what this book was. Like, I just remembered that my friend and I were constantly like, man, can you believe this? So it turned out to be this Iris Johansen book called This Fierce Splendor. And the thing that was insane is I remembered almost nothing else about the book, especially because once I found it again, I was like, oh, this is straight up like white people going like kind of their the whole myth of Mexico and the Aztecs.
It gets dicey out here in these old horse books.
It really does. And so anyway, I really found myself having a moment and I found a bunch of them. And some of them I wish I hadn't have found.
It's unfortunate when you go back and you read one of those,
yeah,
those ones that were really important when you were like really installed the buttons. I do want to talk about doing it on a horse, though, because if horses freak out and die on movie sets, I can't imagine they enjoy.
This is so one of the books I did read for it was a Nora Roberts book called Montana Sky. And these three sisters inherit this horse ranch, and one of them, right, are sort of, she jokes like they're riding together, or she's riding behind him, and she jokes about like doing it up on a horse. And he basically is like, are you kidding? This thing is gonna fucking bolt if we do that. Like, that's not safe. And I do remember really feeling like, okay, this is validation. Like, this seems like a terrible idea.
Yeah.
Both for your safety and the safety of this animal.
There's a lot of conversation these days about historical accuracy and romance novels going on. And here's what I'll say. These fucking books slapped. No one cared that the horse would bolt if you messed around on top of it. There was always something going on a horse. There were so many situations where the horse could go like miles and miles, like 200 miles into Scotland without stopping while like two humans were on them. Like no breaks. And I think no one cared. And I think that this is one of those moments where there are a lot of things from these old books that I do not want to resurrect in current historicals. But if you're out there writing historical right now and you want to have two people fucking a horse, we're fine with it.
Now is the time.
That is really not the accuracy that we are asking for.
Also, see, look, I thought I'd have nothing to say, and it's all just coming
here
online.
We are
30 minutes in. I do have a very favorite microtrope about horses. I bet you can guess what it is. Okay, it has to do with how terrifying his horse is.
Oh, you like it when they're the same color as the hair? You like it? You like
Okay, no.
hair, eyes, horse, all
Sure.
black.
This week's episode of Fated Mates is sponsored by Piper Rain, author of Mr. Swoony.
Okay, Jen. Piper Rain, they just know how to do it. Okay.
They do.
Are you ready for this setup? So this is part of their Nest series, which is a hockey series, everyone. I know a lot of you just came right online when I said that. Eloise, our heroine, is about to get married. She is coming up on 30. She is at her bachelorette party. Her bridesmaid, one of her bridesmaids, is like falling down drunk. It's kind of chaotic, and wouldn't you know, like there's actually a really surprisingly decent man like around, and Connor Nilsson, who she does not know is the goalie for the Chicago Falcons, turns up, comes over, helps get her drunk bridesmaid back to the hotel room, and he and Eloise have this like wonderful conversation where he's just like charming and funny and like a cool, wonderful guy. And she reveals that she's about to turn 30. She's getting married and she has a list, Jen. She has a bucket list. And, like I'm all in at this point. And she hasn't managed to check one single item off this list. And he's like, so they have this like lovely night and the chemistry is totally there. And suddenly Eloise is thinking like, am I doing the wrong thing? Like just across the board? Like if I can feel such chemistry with like just a person. But here's the problem.
She's getting married.
When you're at your bachelorette party, like, it's happening. The wedding is happening. So she goes to her wedding. She's there at the altar, Jen. And wouldn't you know, this guy bursts through the church door to stop the wedding. And when she's like, what am I going to do? I don't even have a place to live. He's like, yeah, you do. Come live with me and be my roommate. And we'll do your bucket list together.
Amazing. And I love it.
But like, here's the thing. And now he's the rebound guy. He doesn't want that. Like, oh, perfect. Can't wait to read this one.
You don't have to wait because at the end of this episode, you can listen to the beginning of Mr. Swoony in audio, which is like a real fun way to just like get started with this great book. If your podcasting app supports it, you can click on the chapter title right now to be taken to buy the book. Thanks to Piper Rain for sponsoring this week's episode. I love it when like no one could ride the horse but him.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And then she comes along.
Gets on it.
And
that's like a Julie Garwood classic.
It is. And I forgot how much I fucking love that too. And he's always like, where the fuck is my horse? And she's like, yeah, I had to take it. No one's ever been able to ride my horse before.
Is evil. That horse is evil. It's the devil incarnate. That horse is always called devil, by the way. That one.
I love it.
Sometimes it's called demon. Sometimes it's called Beelzebub. But it's always called something related to the devil. Now, I do like it when, like, in The Black Lion, like I said, dark hair, dark eyes, horse, dark as night. Everything's perfect. It's just, they match the horse.
Sure.
I like it. I like a lot of horse things, interestingly.
I think that's easy for us to say, having never been around them.
I mean, I don't know anything about horses, so...
They leave their shit all over Michigan Avenue, and I'm sure there's similar problems up in. Do they have horse
in
rides
New York,
through
they have to wear a
Park?
diaper?
They guess they do.
It's really like that's too bad. That's kind of embarrassing.
I don't think they really do. Actually,
it's a little bit degrading for horses. Like these are majestic creatures, and now they're wearing diapers on Fifth Avenue. Embarrassing. We should do better, humans.
This whole episode is so ridiculous, and I'm not even mad about it.
But here's the thing. They are majestic creatures. Like, as much as I am not a horse girl, and I didn't take horse, lessons or any of that, I don't speak horse. I appreciate that, like, beautiful. So, okay. Budweiser, the beer company, has these Clydesdales, right?
Do you think they really have them?
Yeah. Now, listen. No word of a fucking lie. I have seen the Budweiser Clydesdales. I mean, listen, I think there are probably a lot of them, right? Because at Christmas time, Budweiser will send the Clydesdales pulling like a cart full of like what I assume are empty beer kegs.
It is sounds like the Rockettes. They'll send the Clydesdales.
It is like the fucking Rockettes. Listen, you haven't seen shit until you've seen these Clydesdales. They send them to like the top bars that sell Budweiser in the country. Now, listen, we used to live in Brooklyn. We used to live in Windsor Terrace by a bar called Farrell's. We'll put a link to a story about Farrell's in show notes, everybody, because Farrell's notoriously did not let women into the bar until like the 80s. Like
oh
it
my
was,
God.
And it's like a real fireman, like policeman bar. And it was right near our house. And when you went into Farrell's, which I have only done 2 or 3 times in my life, you would go in and they had 2 things on tap, Bud and Bud Light. And they would serve them in giant styrofoam cups. And like, that was it. But this is a New York City bar. Like, there were a lot of and a fireman bar and a policeman bar. So like, people went in there a lot and must have drunk a ton of Bud Light and Budweiser, because one Christmas, the fucking Clydesdales came to New York City to this like ridiculous corner bar in Brooklyn. And I will dig out a picture and maybe we can like put it, maybe it could be, in chapters, like you can look down and if your podcasting app supports it, there's an image. They are like enormous and beautiful and like, these are like stunning animals. And these are the performer animals. Like these Clydesdales, they travel around, they visit bars. It's a little sad. Again, majestic creatures visiting bars instead of, I don't know, running in the snow where they should. Take the Clydesdales back to Montana where they belong.
Oh, those were real. Okay.
No, they are. And they're also huge. But anyway, so we like a horse. I mean, I like the idea of a horse more than I like being on a horse, I think.
I worked with a guy once. We had a girl come into school. This was like many years ago, before my even previous school, I think. This was like, there was a year when they had Uggs that were real kind of feathery almost at the bottom.
Sure.
Sure. And she was wearing like, black leggings and like a pair of those. And he's like, she kind of looks like a Clydesdale.
There you go.
And I was like, that's true. He's like, like they're fetlocks or something. And I was like, what the fuck is that
Look
fetlock?
at you using the word fetlock.
I have no idea what that means even to this day.
Impressive work. Okay. We should get into some books, though, because I want to talk about, so you obviously are bringing the Who Did It Better on a Horse books
Correct.
to the table.
Yes.
So I
also read some cowboy books.
Okay. This is not a cowboy episode, but I think like in some way, cowboys are going to become a part of it. And so just be aware, everybody, of that. But what I want to talk about before we talk about anything related to cowboys, I want to say the American West in romance has not always been well represented. In fact, I would say it has often been very poorly represented. And so while I do have some books that I hope will properly represent the diversity and correct historical representation of the American West, what I do want to do is recommend our friends Adriana Herrera and Nikki Payne's Unbound podcast, which is called Unbound Pod, where the entire first season of Unbound is about the American West in romance and media. And you can go and you can learn. And they did a massive amount of research on Black and brown cowboys out in the American West and like how important Black and brown people were in the American West. So go off and listen to every episode of that. They talk to experts, they talk to romance novelists, they talk to people who know about cowboys and horses. I don't think they have an episode on horses, but you get it.
I'm sure it's just like built into the system.
Yeah. So that I just want to say that out loud up front.
I don't want to steal Kate. We were hoping Kate would come on this episode with us, but sometimes people are busy. We understand. And I'm kidding. We love you, Kate. she did say something really funny to me once because I was like, why do you like cowboy romances so much? Like, what's the appeal? Because I'm always really interested in when people really love something, right? I'm kind of like, what is the subgenre doing for you? And she said something really funny, which I'm going to share with you. She's like, well, I just like a cowboy romance because, a man has to do a lot of chores in those books. And I was like, that's a good point. There is a lot of work to do.
Yep.
And this man is responsible for quite a bit of it, mucking out stalls and such.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have already mentioned this fierce splendor. I can't really necessarily recommend that you read this book, but you might want to. It's fine. I mean, I think a lot of people are going to think about Joanna Lindsay's Savage Thunder, which I just think is kind of indefensible in terms of like a lot of like the kind of native stereotypes and such. So I don't really think that's also on my list. It's worth talking about. The Montana Sky book by Nora Roberts actually was great. I really, really enjoyed reading it. One of the things that Nora does so well is really, I think, build her books around families. And this is also one of the things I like about like a Western romance is I feel like most of these books to me are very deeply like because I don't know, like ranching and things like that. It's like these are big jobs and they are hard jobs. I feel like a lot of these stories really lend themselves well to the idea that like you have to do them with people you can trust, right? And so I think a lot of these books really are not like small town romances as much as they are about like romance about the power of families.
Mm-hmm.
And that one has 3 sisters who inherit a ranch, and it's from a father that they were not close to, or like, and I don't remember like the nature of the estrangement, but I remember it was kind of almost one of those things where they're like, maybe they didn't even know each other that well. And, it's just like, I think that the idea of the book that was really powerful was like, obviously they're each going to find someone they fall in love with, but also that they are going to, I don't know, like make a run of this together. Right. So, and of course it's like some huge amount of money, but they don't know each other. And so they have to like figure it out together. And so it's not just like, it's almost like a big, huge game of like,
Mm-hmm.
not just like winning the race for the ranch necessarily, right? But like, it's like one of those inheritance things, right? Like you have to live on it together for a certain amount of time before you can break it up. And I think that is a really powerful way to like sort of show people what they are capable of.
Yeah.
And I liked that it was sisters because I felt like, so they each have a different mother. And so Montana Sky is about Tess. And it's funny, so she's like a Hollywood film writer or something, and she just like wants to go back. And one sister is like on the run, and another sister actually grew up on the ranch and feels really betrayed by her father that he is like bringing the other woman into it. And so I thought this was anyway, Montana Sky is a great book.
So I think that Nora is a really interesting lens for horse romance because I do think that she, in a lot of ways, becomes the template for contemporary horse stuff. And what I mean by that is I think you can't talk about horse romances without talking about Irish Thoroughbred, which is Nora Roberts' debut novel. It's a category romance. It's Silhouette number 81. And it is like one of the most like classic
Yes.
It's the setup is so classic that literally the reason why I thought like we have to talk about Irish Thoroughbred is because I was reading a different book and I was like, oh my god, this is like the descendant of Irish Thoroughbred. So I'm going to talk about Irish Thoroughbred and then like we'll get to the other book that I want to talk about that's related to it. But so um this one was published in 1981, and it is the story of Adelia. Dee is her name, Dee. And she is an Irish woman whose family, like, she has been left like penniless and familyless. Like, everybody dies in Ireland. And then her Irish uncle has emigrated to the United States and he works on a horse farm in, I don't know where, someplace. And she basically, he says to her, like, he like writes to her and he's like, you have to come live with me on this horse farm. Like, you don't have anybody, but you have me. I'm your only family. Come to America. So she does. She comes to America, and it turns out that Dee is, and this is where you start to see like the DNA of Nora's books, like really finding its way into a lot of places in horse romance and contemporaries, especially, is Dee is a like horse whisperer. Like, she gets to this place, and Travis owns this horse farm. Like, Patty, her uncle, works for him. And he like there's this kind of like magical thing about Dee. Like, the horses love her. She's like able to tell if they're, sad or happy or hurt or whatever. And Travis is this like deeply grumpy, like 1981 hero, right? Who like is just stern and gruff, and like punishing kisses happen right throughout this book. Then Patty, the uncle, has a heart attack. And God, so much happened. Listen, when we say like these books, so much happens in these books. So Patty has a heart attack, and then like Dee and Travis, who like hate each other, except like they don't, because they hate each other, but also punishingly kiss each other, right? Patty's like, what will happen if I die? And Dee then has nobody. Travis, you have to promise you'll take care of her. And so they have a marriage of convenience in the hospital room. Like, basically, it's like, there's no time to plan a wedding. We'll just do it. Like, and what I mean by no time, I mean no page count to plan a wedding. Like, they get married in the hospital room, like officiated by the like hospital chaplain. And then but they're like unhappy. It's like a classic marriage of convenience. His like perfect, like size 2, 5'11" model ex-girlfriend turns up and is like this, cheap Irish lass are you kidding? Like, obviously you're not in love with her. Like, we've seen this book a million trillion times, but we hadn't seen it prior to Irish Thoroughbred. And then like, I don't know, there's like, he saves her from a sexual assault at one point, and then they finally consummate their marriage, and then like, it goes on from there. And then boom, they love each other, and that's the end. 55,000 words changed the genre, right? So it's really interesting because this like magic woman piece of the horse, like, I feel like part of the appeal of these horse books is like the heroine is always just like a little bit special.
I think that was really true throughout the 90s. I mean, or the 80s and 90s. I mean, it's like thinking about how many of the books I read. I mean, like Elizabeth Lowell and Linda Howard, all those books I read.
That's how it goes. She's special is the like core story of decades of romance novels. Continues to be like,
well, and like I said, I think that's why I love the whole like, everybody's terrified of my horse except her, right? I mean, that's what that is. It's like except it's not about training. It's just like this innate way. Like, my horse recognizes her
because I'm exasperated and can't find my way to caring about her, but my horse loves her. Yeah. This week's episode of Fated Mates is sponsored by Avery Maxwell, author of Cross My Heart.
All right. So everybody, you know, I love it when someone's like, I am too broken to love. And that is what we've got here.
Best.
And it's interesting because the I'm too broken to love person is our heroine, Lainey. She is a nanny for of course, handsome, awesome, small town billionaire, Dexter Cross. He's got 3 kids and a 7-figure business to run. His world is chaos and he needs help. So after his 3rd nanny quits, he hires Lainey, and the kids automatically like connect with her. She refuses to be intimidated by Dexter's like gruff ways, but he can tell that she is just heartbroken and sad and he wants to protect her. So they, you know, he can tell that she is like the perfect person to like make his family whole again. But she, of course, is like cautious and she's just really afraid because of things that have happened in her past to like let a man into her heart and her life again. But the way these kids are sort of like making a space for themselves all of a sudden makes it possible for them to find love. So this is a steamy, page-turning, emotional roller coaster of a book by Avery Maxwell.
This one is a standalone. It's book 1 in Avery's interconnecting series, The Westbrooks. And you can read it right now in print, ebook, or audiobook, or with your monthly subscription to Kindle Unlimited. If your podcasting app supports it, you can click on the chapter title right now to be taken to buy the book. Thanks to Avery Maxwell for sponsoring this week's episode.
I actually have a theory I'm kind of making as I'm saying it, which is like, it seems like to me, looking back, a lot of these it was like a marker of a certain kind of wealth.
Well, yeah, because you have a horse farm is not the same as a ranch.
No, right, exactly.
And invariably, like, the whole point of like Irish thoroughbred, right, is like these are racing horses. And that's true of all of these books that I mean, like, except I do have a rodeo book, but these are all horses that have like immense financial value.
I wonder if it was some sort of like crossover appeal to the historical reader. Because here's the thing, like right now we're in like sort of this inverse time when
how do historicals grab contemporary readers?
Right. And so I'm wondering if at that time, I mean, I'm literally just guessing. I have no idea. But if it was like, okay, you know, like maybe one of the things people really liked about historical was the sense of, you know, it's like the romance of like a horse-drawn carriage and the idea of like things being slower, whatever. And
also that like rarefied fine air of like money, power, wealth. Like horse racing wealth is different wealth than like that's like old Southern money wealth.
I wonder, because I mean, I think about like how many books were about like ranches and, you know, horses and all that sort of stuff. And I just don't feel like this is as big of a deal now. Like I wouldn't, you know, I mean, who is it? There is a woman who writes, is it Mimi Matthews? Is that her name?
Yeah, she has a ton of horse books.
Yeah. I mean, I think she's a horsewoman and I think she really likes, from what I understand. So, I mean, but I do feel like it's so much more distinctively unusual now to have like a bunch of horse books happening. I feel like they are, although it's funny because the other thing I've been thinking about is like, I'm sure you and I are the same. There's many popular like kind of cowboy romances now that I simply like were very popular on TikTok, but I have not read them. Elsie Silver and Lila Sage. Yeah.
That is outside the purview of this episode.
Yes.
Right? Like if we're going to, I want to give people a little more information about Mimi because I hadn't thought to talk about Mimi, but like she's a good person to point to. So first of all, there are horses on all of the covers of these books.
Oh yeah.
The first one in that series, the series is called The Bells of London. And the first one in that series is called The Siren of Sussex. And it is a really great, like very fun romance. And that is about, she's like, she's the horse person. That said, this is Mimi is also a good place to go if you know of somebody or are somebody who prefers a closed door romance. Her books are not open door. And they're like big Victorian stories. There's usually some kind of like conversation. There's like a mystery involved in them. They're sort of they edge up on they're about as close to historical fiction as historical romance can get.
Yeah.
But they were very fun, and that whole series is fun, is a fun read. Do you want to go next?
No, you should go.
Okay, well, let's stay in historicals because I want to talk about The Trouble with Anna, which I've talked about sort of vaguely a couple of times, but like this is the episode where I want to actually talk about The Trouble with Anna, which is a historical debut from a woman named Rachel Griffiths. This is one of those, we did not talk about this book in our historical, like when we talked about our historical roundup of like all the books that we had deliberately gone out and found. And the reason why is because it wasn't out yet, but now it is out. And you can actually go and buy this book in a bookstore right now. And it is a really fun, Rachel clearly loves historicals. Like,
yeah,
this is a woman who obviously like has read historicals for a million trillion years and did that thing that debut romance novelists often do, where they just like pack a book full of all the things that they love about romance. And it does read that way. It is very clear that, that she is also a horse person, because the premise of this book is that Anna Reston, the heroine, her grandfather, all Anna cares about in the whole world is like horses. Like her grandfather has a massive estate filled with racehorse breeding stables, and that is like and that is all Anna has ever like cared about or loved in her life. And when her grandfather dies, this is a classic inheritance tee up. You've all heard this story before. Her grandfather dies, and they go to the reading of the will. And like at the reading of the will is like her, the solicitor, and this like earl who she doesn't entirely like. He is outrageously handsome. She has had like a crush on his handsomeness from birth, it feels like.
I love that.
But like also he is her best friend's older brother. And like there's no way, he is so far above her. Like she is not titled. He is titled. He is an earl. Like it is all, there's no way this is ever happening. And they kind of don't, as handsome as he is, they don't have a good relationship. Anyway, they go to the reading of the will, and the will is basically like Anna inherits everything on the condition that she marries this man, the earl.
Oh boy.
No one has been told this yet. Like, so like, this is just like an old man dying and like machinating beyond his death, which is one of my favorite things. And so basically he's like, you two have to get married. When the two of you marry, then Anna inherits the whole estate. Oh, and by the way, if you don't marry, he's also your guardian.
Oh.
And your best friend's older brother. And so it's one of these books where like there's so much going on between the two of them. Immediately, the earl is like, fuck this, you machinated this to get this marriage happening, because he could do with the money. And then there's this sort of, it just feels like this book is like this big, bright book about a woman with like a real passion for something outside of marriage, love, children, family, future, right? Like, and I think we often in historicals like write a heroine who's, has a kind of like, oh, I like whatever it is. I like books, or I like, my dream is to, own a bakery or whatever, right? And we sort of say that the heroine has a passion outside of whatever she's passionate about, outside of love. But in this case, Rachel really delivers it. This is a book where I think if you are a person who loves horses, like who thinks about horses and cares about horses in the real world, will love this book because she really does pack this book with like stuff about horses and like the importance of like racing and how horses exist in the world. Um and it's interesting because like I said, often the interest of the heroine can be wallpaper in romances, and in this book it's not. And then on top of it, it's all the fun tropey stuff, right? The marriage of convenience, the inheritance, the best friend's older brother, like all of that. It's sexy. These two are they match wits, they have similar interests, like they are perfect for each other. And what you are seeing is like the kind of slow, inevitable tumble into love that this particular kind of story delivers. So that is Rachel Griffith's The Trouble with Anna.
I love that. I love like what a cool lens to view it through. The point about like this wasn't like an acceptable thing for like women to be interested in historicals, right? Or to feel passionate about. One of my favorite is I think, you know, like it was one of my favorite secondary characters in Lisa Kleypas's Ravenel series is and she's introduced to us in the very first in the first book, which is oh my god, I'm sorry everybody, I'm like a little bit fuzzy. Cold-Hearted Rake, correct. Is so in Cold-Hearted Rake, the heroine of Cold-Hearted Rake is it's actually really a really sad story. I mean, it's sort of like, you know, we have like the virgin, essentially of the virgin widow, because Kathleen's husband Theo died like 3 days after their marriage on a horse that she brought with her into the marriage because she comes from like horse people in Ireland. And it turns out, and it's like one of those things where it really is, I think, a very effective. Kathleen loves horses. And part of the reason that she loves horses, and it's not even something that like she herself can necessarily, I think, even really admit, is that her parents essentially kind of abandoned her.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like when she was at a certain age, they like kind of sent her off to live with this other family. And that was another, like these were also horse people. And it was like, there's like a funny scene where she like, you know, at one point they're like talking about like, you know, breeding horses at the table. And I think somebody's like, I can't believe like they're talking like this. I think Kathleen's love of horses, though, is also really tied into the idea that it was like a way to be close to her parents or to try and prove to them that she could have been a good daughter to them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, and I think it's like it's genuine and real how much she loves how much she loves horses and how deeply she cares about them and about riding.
Mm-hmm.
But also when the book opens, this horse has killed her husband. And so Devin Ravenel ends up being, you know, inheriting. He's like Theo's long lost cousin or something. And, you know, essentially like we open with Theo's death being discussed by Devin and his brother West. And kind of like, you know, they're kind of joking around, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like obviously the horse found him as, you know, insufferable as I did. And, you know, just, and their intention is to essentially go and, essentially like sell off what they can and that'll be that, right?
Mm-hmm.
They don't have any intention on like staying in, you know, taking on the huge weight of becoming like the lord of this like crumbling estate, right?
Yeah.
But once he gets there and like meets Kathleen and hears how heartbroken she is about what has happened, but also how he's almost sort of surprised, like she doesn't want the horse put down. Because apparently, if a horse has been responsible for someone's death, it would have been really common for them to assume essentially like the horse had like reverted
The
to
horse
some
is
kind of
evil.
wild state. Right,
Yeah.
exactly. But Kathleen loves, I think the horse's name is Assad, if I'm remembering correctly. And this is not what Kathleen wants, but she also cannot bring herself to go into the stables to see her horse. I mean, and it's this really heartbreaking, I don't know. I think it just really, for me, was a book that where I really found myself thinking that Kathleen's love for her horse was so pure. And I think part of it was just like, imagine like it's all of her anger and rage and sadness about how Theo turned out to be, right? Is displaced onto the horse in some kind of way, right?
Yeah.
So again, back to like the horse just is like just a big beating heart of feelings.
Yep.
And I think that one of the things that is, I think, like really beautiful about the book is that Devin encourages her to like start essentially to write again, right? Like, it's okay. You can do this. And so I did think that this first book in the Ravenel series is a really good book for that thought of like, I don't know, our heartbreak can be tied up into our feelings in ways that are like really complex and hard to understand. And so Kathleen is sort of just like, I couldn't bring myself to go and see my horse. And yet once she does, it's just like this, it's like everything just like bursts out of her, all of her feelings. And it's like the moment, I think too, where Devin sees her beyond seeing like he's just like, she's a real cold fish. Right? He's sort of almost inclined to blame her for what happened to Theo in some way. And then when he sees her just like rage and sadness and fear with the horse, somehow it becomes more clear and apparent that her feelings instead have just been hidden. Cold Hearted Rake is one of those books where the first time I read it, I was kind of like, it was okay. It was fine. But when I read it again, I loved it's like one of those books that I think the more I read it, the more I love it.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think the same way about the whole Ravenel. Like, that's the book for me, Cold Hearted Rake. And I also think, like, we talk all the time. This is not horse related, but we talk all the time about how Lisa uses these, like totems, right? Like and this one has Theo's book, right? That gets stolen.
Right.
And I think, there's some really beautiful things that she does in Cold Hearted Rake that, are classic Lisa things. Anyway, weirdly, I have two Wild Horses books.
All right.
So let's go with Legends Lake by Joanne Ross, which is the book that made me think of Irish Thoroughbred. So this book is also a horse racing book, and it also has a magic heroine who is from Ireland in it. So here we go. So this book it has a great beginning. This is an it was published in 2001, and it feels like that because it has this kind of a real sense of like, these two don't meet for like 5 or 6 chapters. Like, there is a slow build to what's going on here. So Alec, our hero, is a horse trainer who like has trained some of the greatest racing horses in the world, right? And it begins with a situation where he has trained this like particularly skilled horse, and the owner wants this horse to run in like whatever race it is. And this horse doesn't like to run in mud. Like, and she doesn't like to run in, or rather, she doesn't like to have mud in her face. Like she underperforms when the track is muddy. And so he's like, I don't think we should run her. Like, I don't think she'll do a good job. I think it'll make her upset. Like, he's basically like he's like protecting this horse. And the owner is like, fuck you, she's my horse. And I want to win this race. And so she's going to win it. And we're just going to tell the jockey, like, he's just going to have to bring her out hard. And she's going to have to be at the beginning, the front of the pack the whole way around. And Alec is like, this is not going to happen. And he sort of knows that it's not going to end well. And it turns out it doesn't. She startles, she falls, and she breaks her leg. And what happens to horses happens to her, right?
Yeah.
And he is so furious that we actually, in the very first chapter of this book, see him punch the owner of this horse full on in the face and break his jaw. And then, like, all of a sudden, Alec is this, like, hothead trainer that nobody wants to work with because he might punch you in the face. Which, like, honestly, so of course, listen, I'm in the second a hero justifiably punches someone in the face. Like, sold. What happens next? So, of course, there's like a woman who owns like another racehorse owner who is like a fun lady. And she's like, I don't care that Alec punched that guy in the face. He deserved it. He should come work for me because I have this special horse, Legends Lake, and nobody's ever seen a horse do this kind of work before, like run like this. He's so fast. He's like a rocket. Like no horse has ever been this horsey. And then she hires Alec. But the problem is that Legends Lake, no horse has ever been this horsey. And also, like, sometimes he just decides he doesn't want to run on the track. Like, he's just like, fuck this, I'm out.
Too muddy.
And he's running like a bat out of hell. But like, instead of finishing the race, he like jumps the fence and takes off, right? So it's not great. He needs a trainer. Alec goes and like realizes very quickly that like he can't do this himself. Like this horse is like beyond even Alec's skill. So the only answer is that the horse and Alec have to go to Ireland to meet with the breeder.
Okay.
Kate O'Sullivan, who he and the horse, I don't know, fly on a plane. I don't actually know how they get there, but they get to Ireland. And when they get to Ireland, Kate has they meet Kate, who has tied herself to a tree to prevent a bulldozer from taking down the tree because the tree is full of fairies, Jen. And everybody's like, well, this lady's cuckoo. Except then the guy in the bulldozer is like, well, fuck you. I'm still going to take down this tree, whether you're attached to it or not. And instead of anybody saving Kate summons a lightning storm.
Oh.
To blow this bulldozer out of the water.
I've just come right online.
I know. And I'm like, what is going on here? Now, so Kate can like manage the weather. She believes in fairies. She's a horse whisperer. And Alec listen, there are a lot of kids in this book. She has 2 kids. Alec has a stepdaughter whose like mother died and like she's now like gone round the bend and is like dating a drug dealer. Like there's a lot going on in this book. But then ultimately when they bring Legends Lake to Ireland, there is this like real sense of like, here we are in this tightly knit, very private space where Kate and Alec are going to work to unravel like what is going on with this horse. They are going to find each other as they find this horse. And then on top of it, there's like a bunch of other stuff that's going on, like save the fairy tree, like rescue the stepdaughter, like all these other things that are happening too. And like, ultimately, what ends up happening is there's this kind of push-pull of like the horse has to go back and run the Kentucky Derby. And like, will they be able to get the horse there? Or like, will they stay in Ireland? Will they go back to Kentucky? Like how did 2 people, I think what this book really does is it gives you a sense of like, this horse exists in 2 different worlds. Like there is the like magical world that like bred him, and then there is this like very concrete capitalist world that needs him. And
Yeah.
like the two of them have to figure out how they can work together. And of course, they fall in love in the balance.
I love
And
it.
so I sort of had this moment where I was reading this where I was like, it's interesting because I do feel like there's sort of horses feel very natural. Like there's a,
Yeah.
like if you put a dog on the page, like that's just a dog, right? But like a
Right.
horse feels like it's magical in some way. It feels like this is connected to nature in some way. There's something very like innately, like there's a force that comes with a horse that is not the case with other animals.
I'm going to talk about All Night Long with a Cowboy by Caitlin Cruz. And everybody, if you've never read a Caitlin Cruz book, she just really, I don't know. Some people just have like the beats of like a romance hardwired into the system. And I'm sure I've told the story before once about how I was looking up a like a YA book I really loved from when I was a kid, and like the one other person who had like read and recommended it was Caitlin Cruz, and I was like, I feel like I understand everything now. We came up reading the same stuff. But this is like a really delightful book, but it has to do about okay, so it starts off with Jensen Kitteridge. This is, I think, a series. I've only read this one about like the Kitteridge Ranch. And on this ranch in Colorado, they raise quarter horses. And Jensen, though, it opens, and she is just so good at setting a scene and placing a character in that scene. It's just like you start this book and it's just like whoosh, you're off. And Jensen so he grew up in Cold River, Colorado, and he was, he's kind of the local, a little bit of the local bad boy. His older brother is the sheriff now. And the thing that's really interesting, though, is Jensen is home for the summer, and he is not usually home for the summer on the family ranch. He is usually out fighting wildfires in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's like, and again, this is like something that could really, I think also Caitlin just really excels at leveraging like what you can do with third person, which is have a character withhold, but they're withholding. Right? Like we know that there's something going on, some part of his past that he feels like he has to be, that he is atoning for, is what causes him to go out and fight these wildfires. And so he's sitting there and he's kind of like deciding which local lady he's going to like take to his bed tonight. And at first you kind of think like, is this a big enough town that they're just like women all over? And it's like, no, like, he grew up with this girl and she's divorced now and has kids. But, here in the bar, all of that's forgotten. It's really great. When in comes Harriet Barnett, and she is the new librarian in town. And the thing that's great about this is Harriet, the entire book is like, I've been here for 3 years. And everyone's, yeah, but in this town, that's nothing. Like, you're new here still. You're new here till you're 3 generations deep. And what she wants from Jensen is she teaches she has essentially a summer school. Her librarian job is in the high school. So she's the school librarian at the local high school. And she wants Jensen to come in and talk to this like special like remedial class she has. And he like kind of doesn't want to have anything to do with it, and kind of blows her off, and it takes a while for it to like sort of all uncover, like kind of like all of it to come to light. But what she wants is, there's this one in particular, like kind of, she's like, well, I have people come in and talk about their jobs. And he's kind of like, are you kidding me? And she's like, yeah, well, one of the kids mentioned your name in particular. And so I'm coming because Aiden Hall wants you to come. He mentioned your name in particular. And he's like, come on, the Halls are bad. They're bad seeds. Like, that kid's up to no good.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, well, I don't think that's true. I'm the librarian and I believe in the good in everyone, or whatever, right? Well, the thing that is comes to pass is that he comes and he talks to the class, and then like the next time we see him, Aiden has been picked up by his brother, the sheriff, for graffitiing something, I think at like a church. And he's asked for Jensen because Aiden essentially has no one to care for him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, his mom's ran off and his dad's no good or whatever. And he ends up having to do community service like with the horses on the ranch.
Yeah.
And I think that this is like horses therapeutic is often like kind of another way that it shows up in romance. You know, like just like there's something about working with these, as you called them earlier, magnificent animals that just like really brings out the best in people. And so there's this great scene where Harriet, who is the heroine, and I barely talked about her, but I guess I'm talking about horses here, brings Aiden in to like first meet a horse or whatever at the ranch. And he's like, I bet neither of you have ever been on a horse. And Aiden's like, I've been on a horse. He's like, yeah, like on a, you know, pony at the carousel fair or whatever.
Yeah.
And it turns out that like, I don't know, it just Jensen, who is like all smooth and all, you know, lanky, lazy cowboy energy, when he is so kind, like to show Aiden these horses in the way that he does, right?
Yeah.
And the whole first time that they're there, they just like walk around and like learn how to pet him. Like the horse's name is Old Man. It turns out that, of course, what it is Aiden is sort of like semi-convinced that like Jensen maybe is his father, right? Like, so there's like a whole point where he's like, are you sure you're not my dad? And Jensen's like, I'm sure. And it's a great romance between him and Harriet. And Harriet, of course, is like, again, this book felt very much to me like a callback to like a certain kind of like, she's the prim proper school mistress who shows up in town and like catches the eye of the handsome rancher who, you know, can't believe he's attracted to this, you know. And so that's like their romance doesn't, like you were talking about in the previous book, like just like feels like it's really hearkening back to like these primal horse stories that we read. But the addition of like Aiden, the like wayward, really like bad kid, is really a great addition to the story and just really feels like, I don't know, I really liked it. It's it's really a fun read. It is totally terrific. It's a really great like sort of fish out of water. Even though Harriet's been in town for 3 years, she's never fit in anywhere in her life. And yet she fits in with Jensen, and Jensen's like, why am I at all attracted to this woman wearing a dress with more floral than anything I've even seen on my grandmother? It's terrific. So that's All Night Long with a Cowboy by Caitlin Cruz.
I want to talk about rodeo because I feel like if you're gonna like, you got to talk about rodeo, right? So Marcella Bell, I want to talk about The Wildest Ride, which is Marcella Bell's debut romance novel. And the premise here, it's this book. I don't know anything about Marcella, but like this, she must have like a deep understanding of how the rodeo works. Like, this is a rodeo book. This is not like Sandra Brown's Texas exclamation point Chase, where like Chase like rides in the rodeo, but like what are we really talking about here? This is like real deal rodeo stuff. So the premise here is that there is a closed circuit rodeo, which means like it's sort of people enter the rodeo, and then the like last man standing wins $1 million. And it's like a television, it's like televised and tournament style. And so Lillian Sorrow Island is her name, and she's a Muskegee Indian, and she has her grandfather, I think, has a ranch. And when he dies, it becomes clear. And again, this is a sort of similar story to a lot of these other horse books where like she expected to inherit this ranch from her grandfather, but it turns out when he dies that he had taken out a reverse mortgage on the ranch. And so like there is no ranch to inherit. In order for her to take ownership of this like deeply important piece of land, not only because it's a ranch and her career and like would become her job, but also because like Lil has this very like her background is lacking in a lot of, she doesn't have a huge amount of understanding of like where she has come from. Like her mother was pregnant and became a single mother and like never named her father. And so like she just sort of has this sense of like abandonment constantly. And this idea that like her grandfather has now left and this land, which she felt so connected to, isn't going to be hers anymore, is very poignantly threaded through this whole book. Anyway, Lil is like great at rodeo. And this rodeo is offering $1 million, which is almost the same amount as the mortgage on this land. So she's like, I'm going to enter this closed circuit tour and I'm going to win. I'm going to win $1 million. Enter AJ Garza, the hero of this book. Now, AJ is like a hot shot, like is such a like known guy that like everybody, like the media loves him. Everybody knows him. He's a superstar in rodeo, but he's actually been retired for a few years. And he's back in the game because he has this nonprofit organization that he works with that he grew up through. It was like a nonprofit organization in Houston that like worked with troubled youth and taught him essentially like how to be like, was run by like one of the biggest like Black cowboys in modern day, and taught him, like gave him a future in rodeo, right? And that nonprofit has lost its major donor. And so AJ's back on the tour because he wants to win $1 million for this nonprofit to like basically establish it forever so that it will always have an endowment. So first of all, what's cool about this book is like you have two people who you are are both doing this for like real reasons, right? Like,
yeah.
We've seen this story a million times before where like it could have just been that AJ was like a superstar and just wanted to win. But like he has a real reason why he wants to win. So we're invested as readers from the jump in this, right? But I honestly think, Jen, this book has one of the best meet cutes like meetings like ever, right? Because so Lil, like the rodeo has begun and Lil does this ride, and I apologize to anybody out there who like knows rodeo stuff because I obviously we've established
we've established
right?
Our non-bona
our lack of
fides.
credibility. So anyway, she's like on a bronco and like she's drawn one of the most complicated, like one of the most high strung of the horses. And so like I guess in rodeo, like the higher strung the horse, the more points you can get by like staying on it. And she rides. And so we're in AJ's point of view and we're watching Lil like do this ride. And she gets off the ride and her hair is like tucked up under a hat, like, and she's wearing like rodeo clothes. And so she gets off and she's entered as Lil Sorrow. And we're in his POV and he's like, oh, that kid is really good. Like I can see, because there's also slight age gap here, right? Like he's like 10 or 12 years older than her. And so he's like, that kid's great. And then he sort of rolls his eyes when they introduce Lil Sorrow. He's like, oh, kids always come like onto the circuit with like these kind of like big names. Like we have to change that. Like he sort of has this whole vision of like who this kid is on the back of the horse. And then like Lil stays on until the end of the ride, like
Yeah.
makes it all the way through, has had this hard horse, gets off, and like the media is like, oh, have you guys met each other? Like, AJ, are you Lil's coach? Like, what's the deal here? And he's like, no, I just met him. Um, and he's like, but I would love for him to come and work for my organization as a coach and teach kids like how to ride. And Lil's like, yeah, I'm happy to come and like speak to your organization when I win the rodeo. And then she like walks off and he thinks to himself like, "Oh shit." Like no, like he thought that her voice was high pitched because she was young, but she's actually a woman. And then he's like, no, he's like, no cowboy walks like that, right? Because he's, of course, like obsessed with her. And then her hair, like she takes off her hat and her hair like comes down in this beautiful braid. Like it's so great and romancy and delicious. And then you have like, so this whole book is like the two of them competing, right? For equally valuable, reasons. Like you really are rooting for both of them. And I think what's really interesting is like the rodeo is a big part of this book. Like, again, this is not wallpaper. Like, this is like real people doing rodeo shit and like falling for each other despite being in real competition with each other. Like, you want both of them to win. And it is really a fun, sexy read. And I think also like really hammers home this like the diversity of the American West, right? Like AJ is Afro Latinx and Lil is Native, and like they just like, and the cast is really diverse and cool, and there's this like real sense of like this is what rodeo looks like in 2025.
I did forget that I had one more that I wanted to mention, and I know I've mentioned it a bunch of times before, so I'll be brief, which is the great Cowboys of California series by Rebecca Weatherspoon. Now, they're like three brothers who have a ranch that they own. And it's like a dude ranch or something. And the thing that I really like the third book. Here's what I'd say. They also have like each of them is a fairy tale retelling. And, everybody knows I'm trash for like the Beauty and the Beast ones. And so that one is book 3, A Thorn in the Saddle. And what's great about it is Jesse, it's the way that he is like presented as being like a beast is not in his physical mannerisms. This is like a beautiful man, but that he has a really nasty temper. And that this makes him somebody is, he's like kind of, yeah. And I think that's smart, right? Like it doesn't always have to be, he's like, hidden away in his castle or whatever. And so in this case, he really like loses his shit at the beginning over a really funny scene. He catches his grandmother with another man. I mean, she's a widow, but still. And he's just like, what's going on? You're my grandmother. And kind of loses his mind. And it turns out that like he really has to like he's kind of socially awkward. It's all of the parts of Jesse that make him so competent and great at the ranch are harder for him when it comes to people. And so Lily Grace is essentially like, I think maybe grew up, I can't quite remember, grew up in the same town or something, like they knew each other as teenagers maybe. And she's back in town, and essentially they make a deal where she will give him sex lessons and he will give her swimming lessons. Now there's like horseback riding too, but they're both already good at that. But it did think of this as being like really one of the, I think a really great look at like sort of, remember I talked about like with Nora Roberts, like the whole idea of family. Mm-hmm. One of the things we really see Jesse having to do here is like a lot of his anger, it's like sort of built in because of the way he was raised, expectations, kind of the part or role each brother played in the family. He goes to therapy on page in this book. Mm-hmm. And I think that it's so, anyway, they have a great romance. And meanwhile, she is getting over some really like hardcore like workplace harassment issues and some, really terrible treatment from an ex. And it has been a great, it's really like being in the position of like teaching Jessie how to be a good lover allows her to sort of like reconnect with that part of herself. So it's a great one. It's I think the third book in the series. And my guess is like, if I'm remembering correctly, like you're really like anxious and waiting for Jesse's book because he's just like kind of taciturn and all that stuff. And then when you find out like what's really beneath that in this book, it's just really rewarding. So that's A Thorn in the Saddle.
My last book is Sanctuary Island by Lily Everett, which I think I've talked about as like a large, like when we did our small town episode, I think I talked about the whole series. Lily Everett is also Louisa Edwards, is also Louisa Darling, right? So one of the things that made me laugh was when we were talking about Louisa Darling, I was on Threads the other day, and somebody was like, "Wait, Louisa Darling has written other stuff," and I was like, "Oh yeah, welcome to Louisa Edwards." But then somebody else was like, "Wait a second, Louisa Edwards is writing historical." It's so fun when like authors reinvent themselves, but somewhere between Louisa Edwards and her great chef romances and Louisa Darling and her great historical romances, Lily Everett happened. And Lily Everett is the name that Louisa uses for her Sanctuary Island series, which is Sanctuary Island is the name of the island where the books take place, and it is called that because it is a wild horse sanctuary. And the first book, Sanctuary Island, is the story of two sisters. Mary, who is pregnant, very pregnant, like weeks away from having a baby, and Ella, who is her older sister, and they have no one but each other. And that is because they grew up, their mother was an alcoholic, and she was not a good mother, and because in large part of her alcoholism. And now she is they sort of peeled away from her and they built their lives separate from her, and now it's really the two of them against the world. But Mary is pregnant, and she knows that their mother, who is now living on Sanctuary Island, and Mary is basically like, I want to go and I want to see her, and I want to come to terms with like our relationship with our mother in this. And so Ella reluctantly agrees, and they go to Sanctuary Island to meet their mother. Of course, when they get there, Joelle and their mother has a very good friend, a younger, handsome,
of course,
deeply scarred man named Grady Wilson. Listen, his hands are scarred, and so he never takes his gloves off, Jen. It's amazing. So anyway.
Sarah's like, I can't even.
It's so good. Anyway, Grady has lived on Sanctuary Island forever, and he has sort of named himself the protector of this island, right? Like he protects the horses, he protects the island. Like he doesn't want anything to harm these horses. And he also like, he's like a resident handyman. Like he's like really loyal to their mother, because Joellen now is like trying to make good, like trying to be a better person, feeling that she has lost her daughters, right? But in come the daughters. And so this becomes this kind of like really beautiful, big, like family, again, like edging up on women's fiction, this book, because it becomes really about like the sisters coming to terms with the mother, and like, but at the same time, Ella and Grady are like drawn to each other. And so there are these wonderful, and Grady kind of decides that Ella doesn't really want anything to do with their mother when they first arrive. Mary really does. And so Ella's really isolated, and Grady kind of, it's like recognizes like. And so he's like, let me show you Sanctuary Island. I want you to see this place that your mother has now become like an important piece of, right? And there's like something to do. There's like an inheritance that's going on with the mom that's kind of a secondary plot. But basically, Grady really wants to show Ella that like Jo Ellen has changed. And in order to do that, in order to like find time with her, he's like, let me show you Sanctuary Island. And so there's this great moment where they like go out and they see like these horses, they're wild, they run in packs. Like it's exactly what you want it to be if you're a horse person. And Ella's like, well, how did this happen? Like, how did these horses happen? And there are like all these theories of how the horses got to Sanctuary Island, including like, well, when the Spaniards came, they brought them, or like, they were hidden. They were brought by the English and then hidden so that the English didn't have to pay taxes to the crown for them. And then he's like, but my theory is that like the horses came here by themselves. And like he tells this like beautiful kind of like high grade like fairy tale about these horses like swimming through the Atlantic until they found an island that was like right for them. I mean, like it's very magical, and like she's like, oh, that's so magical. And it's so sexy and great. It's like a real, speaking of that Rebecca Weatherspoon book, this is a Beauty and the Beast like arc. Obviously he's like scarred and like so, but she's scarred too. They both have these like very broken, they come from a really broken place, both of them. And these are two people who are going to mend each other. Listen, I don't have to convince you. Louisa knows how to write a book.
She does.
And,
that is true.
In multiple genres. And so if you have read all the Louisa Darling books and are looking for something else, Sanctuary Island just might be for you. Also, as part of the Sanctuary Island batch, there is a collection of novellas that are all like billionaires who happen upon Sanctuary Island, which is classic romance shit. And like, so if you love a billionaire, which let's be clear, we love a fictional billionaire here at Fated Mates, you can head off and buy the novella collection as well.
I like how we're like, we're not going to have anything to say about horses. It'll be a short one.
An hour and 40 minutes in. All right. But we're done. That is it. I don't have any more books except to say we did not talk about Beverly Jenkins. And that is because you've all heard of Beverly Jenkins, but you should go read her cowboy series. And that's what we have to say about Bev. Anyway, so that's that. We did it pretty well on a horse. I'm Sarah McLean. I'm here with my friend Jen Prokop, and we are not horse girls, but we are romance girls. So we hope you had a fun time with us today. You can find show notes and all the books that we've talked about today, including some information about horses that we've dug up on fatedmates.net. Just click on show notes and head over and check all of those out. You can also find us online still, though we never know. You never know when we might give up on social media. We're on Blue Sky, Instagram, and Threads, and you can tell us there about all the horse books that you loved and that brought you to romance. I would also say that I'm going to posit that there are some amazing horse people on the Discord, because there are some amazing people on the Discord, and a lot of them. So if you'd like a place to go to quietly, privately talk about romance novels with a bunch of other people who love them as much as we do, you can join our Patreon at fatedmates.net/Patreon and head over and join the private Fated Mates Discord. And on top of it, you also get an extra episode of the podcast every month. So that's a fun thing. Don't forget to hang out right after this episode for a sneak peek of Piper Rain's new audiobook for their book, Mr. Swoony. That one's going to be super fun. You'll get the first chapter and maybe a little more right now, and then you can head over to buy the book. Thanks, as always, for listening. We love you. Take care of yourselves and everyone else.
Chapter 1. Eloise. This is not the bachelorette party I had on my vision board. I should be in a mud bath getting a head massage, or being rubbed down with aromatic oil in a dim room. At the very least, sweating the toxins out of my overly stressed out body in a steam room. I should not be sitting in a nightclub with a stained pink bride-to-be sash snug around my chest and a t-shirt with a QR code printed on the back for people to scan and buy me a drink. But no, 2 days ago, the spa called to say that a pipe had burst, and the whole place flooded and could no longer accommodate our party. Sure, they felt bad and offered us some complimentary gift cards, but it still left my bridal party SOL. Then, to top it off, my maid of honor, Jade, got stranded in Holland because of some issue with the airport's computer software, so everything was grounded. That left my college roommate/bridesmaid, Penelope, to organize my bachelorette party in less than 48 hours. I'm sure it was no easy feat, and I appreciate all she's done, but tonight has shown me a few things. The biggest one being that Penelope and I don't have a lot in common these days. She clearly enjoys the club scene, while I'm more of a nice restaurant, a few glasses of wine, and in bed by 10 kind of girl. This is what happens when you're scrounging up bridesmaids due to your fiancé's inability to not ask every damn person he's ever met to be a groomsman. Penelope has taken most of the shots that men have bought for me through the QR code. Not that I'm complaining. She can have the shots. And the attention for all I care. It's disgusting how many men have some lame pickup line about how it's my last night of freedom, and I should spend it riding their big dick. Give me a break. Does that shit actually ever work? One thing about Penelope, though, is that she's resourceful. After being denied the VIP section, she flirted us in. Her flirting has now taken her from tipsy to drunk, meaning I need to stay sober to make sure she makes it safely back to our hotel. She's on the dance floor with the guy who had to convince his friends to allow our party to crash theirs. His 2 friends are entertaining women on the rounded part of the booth. And when I say entertaining, I mean they're on their laps in a makeout session, glancing in my direction every once in a while as if I'm a killjoy. I lean back onto the black vinyl couch and cross my legs, sipping my water bottle, biding my time until Penelope returns and I can drag her into an Uber. I glance at the adjoining VIP section, which is mostly filled with guys, and I half wonder if it's a bachelor party celebration. Where is their groom to be, with his sash and QR code t-shirt? If I had to guess, I'd think it's probably the blonde-haired guy with a girl on either side of him. I can see from here that he's a charmer. One of the guys' heads rocks back with laughter at something another guy says, and when his head straightens, our eyes catch for a moment. He brings his glass to his lips and sips, his eyes never leaving mine. Oh, he's good. His lips part, and he smiles, showing off his perfect white teeth. Inch by inch, his gaze flows up my body, but stops on my sash for a moment, before he raises his eyebrows when our eyes lock again. He's got trouble written all over him. His dark hair has fallen across his forehead, a little from being in the club, but it looks as if maybe he meant to style it that way. His shirt pulls across his broad shoulders and chest, but mostly it's his alluring eyes and his perfect smile with a hint of cockiness that would draw in any woman. He knows how good-looking he is. I pull my gaze away from him and glance back at the dance floor to find Penelope with the other bridesmaids, who are really more my fiancé's friends than mine. They've been drinking, but not to excess like Penelope. I'm probably being a party pooper, but I've never been that crazy girl who can put my inhibitions aside and let loose, which is why I wanted a spa weekend for my bachelorette party. Movement in my peripheral vision grabs my attention, and the guy I locked eyes with is talking with the 2 guys from this VIP section we crashed. They shake hands, and one guy opens the rope for him. He nods and thanks them before coming over to me. Why am I nervous? I'm an engaged woman.
Aren't you supposed to be the one out there?
His eyes are a light brown and laced with mischief that makes good girls do bad things. But not this good girl. Sorry, I'm not looking for some guy to show me what I'll miss out on by getting married. I sip my water and turn my attention back to the dance floor. He sinks down on the couch beside me.
I don't pick up taking women.
He sets his drink on the table in front of us and turns his body, blocking my view of the dance floor. He puts his hand out between us.
I'm Connor.
I glance down at it, then look back at his face. Seeing his eyes up close brings a feeling of familiarity I can't place. I slide my hand into his. His large hand swallows my smaller one, and the roughness and calluses along his palm are something new to me. I'm not interested. He chuckles.
Me either.
I shake my head and pull my hand back, biting my lip to not smile at his flirtatiousness.
No name then.
I place my bottle of water next to his glass. No name. I straighten my back. Listen, maybe you're genuinely just a nice guy, but you clearly see this. I circle my hand over my sash and t-shirt. I'm not here to pick up a guy. I don't want one more fling before I say I do. I'm just waiting until my friend is ready to leave so I don't spoil her night and can go back to the hotel.
I am.
I lean around him so I can try to find Penelope on the dance floor again, hoping she's coming back. You're what?
A genuinely nice guy. Ask anyone over there.
He nods toward his VIP section. Yeah, I'm sure your friends will vouch for you. He chuckles again, and I hate that I like the sound.
True.
Why are you here? I attempt to get him to give me a straight answer.
I don't want to tell you.
He sits back and crosses his legs so his ankle rests on his knee, getting even more comfortable instead of leaving, which is what I wish he would do. Trying to pique my curiosity, I arch an eyebrow.
I'm vulnerable.
He flags down the waitress, and she saunters over in a short microdress that doesn't leave much to the imagination.
What can I get you, Connor?
She asks in a sultry voice that implies, as I assumed, he's the player type. I scoff, and Connor turns to me but talks to her.
2 bottles of water.
Digging into his pocket, he pulls out a 50 and places it on her tray of empty glasses, without his eyes ever leaving mine.
Be right back,
She says. So, you're a regular, huh?
I've been here twice.
The bottle girl knows you by name. She must be really good at her job then. I scooch up on the edge of the seat. It was nice meeting you, but I'm gonna go get my friend.
Really?
He sits up straight.
You're just going to leave after I came all the way over here?
I laugh. Well, I'm sure it's a foreign concept for you that a woman isn't interested, but think of it as an opportunity for some character growth. He smirks and shakes his head.
And I thought I was cocky.
I tilt my head and narrow my eyes. Excuse me?
You assumed that I was hitting on you.
Weren't you?
I told you I don't go after taking women, so unless this whole bride thing is a facade, I'm not interested in pursuing you.
The waitress comes back with 2 waters, and he grabs mine, holding it out toward me.
Want me to open it?
I nod, and his forearm flexes as he opens the water bottle and hands it to me. Thanks, I mumble. And I'm sorry. It's just been a shitty night.
I figured.
He glances at the stain on my sash.
I came over because I'm a fixer.
I choke on my water, but manage to swallow it before spitting it in his face. That's your profession? A fixer?
Not my actual profession, but it's who I am to my core. I like to fix people's problems.
I nod and screw the cap back on my water bottle. Well, no worries here. No problems. I wipe my palms together and hold up my hands. Go back over and enjoy your party. His eyebrows scrunch, but he moves to stand.
All right then. My conscience is clear.
Yep, you can sleep well tonight. I stand before I blabber all my problems to this guy. Penelope stumbles into the area with the guy she was dancing with, laughing as they fall onto the couch's other side. Just when I thought I could make my getaway. Chapter 2. Eloise.
Lulu.
Penelope slurs, using the nickname she gave me in college. She only uses it when she's drunk, or when she's whining for me to do something I don't want to do.
Lulu, huh?
Connor asks. Penelope perks up as if she didn't see this gorgeous hunk of a man next to me. She probably didn't. Or she saw two of him. That'd be something if he had a twin. The universe would have really been working overtime if that were the case. Actually, it's Eloise,
I like Lulu.
he says, his gaze fixed on mine. His attention is slightly unnerving.
You're hunky,
Penelope says, trying to sit up straight but failing miserably.
Hey, you're gonna make me jealous.
The blonde guy Penelope has been dancing with all night says. Are you ready to go? I ask her, raising my eyebrows at the guy behind her. I'm sure he'll fight me to take her home, but it's not happening.
Lulu.
She whines and slides closer to me. Thankfully, the blonde guy stays put and talks to his friends. All of them are whispering and looking at Connor. I'm starting to think I missed something. You're drunk and it's time. I really don't want to ruin her night, but she's about a sip away from some bad decisions.
I'm sorry.
She lays her head on my shoulder, but picks it up immediately, concentrating on Connor.
It's her bachelorette party.
I see that.
Connor says with a nod.
And I'm the world's worst bridesmaid.
Penelope's bottom lip trembles. Oh no, not the tears and the crying. Shit, I forgot she gets emotional after a lot of drinks. No, you're not. I put my arm around her shoulders.
I am. Your maid of honor wouldn't be drunk at your party while you're sipping. What is this?
She picks up the water bottle as if we're 19 again and sneaking vodka into our water bottles. She takes a swig.
Water?
The pain in her voice says she's going to lose it, and I'm going to have a basket case on my hands soon. Come on. I stand and look over my shoulder to see the rest of our bridal party huddled with a group of guys. Penelope falls down on the couch, rolling to her back. Connor raises his brows at me and looks back at Penelope.
Are you a model?
She asks him. Connor chuckles.
No.
Some finance bro?
She asks. Not with those calloused hands, I think.
No.
Where did you come from?
She asks, as though he's been conjured up via some science project. Connor points toward the VIP area next door. She gets up on her knees and peers over. Looking over her shoulder at Connor, her eyes widen and her mouth hangs open.
There?
She points. Connor nods. Her eyes narrow and her gaze drags down his body and back up.
Oh, shit.
What? I look between the two of them, clearly missing something because Connor's cocky smirk only gets wider as if he's answering her silent question.
Good looking, cocky, strong thighs. She doesn't even know it, does she?
Penelope giggles, which is kind of annoying because it's clearly at my expense, but I'll take it over tears any night. What am I missing? I ask. She points at the other VIP area.
That's Tweety Sorensen.
I shrug and follow the direction of her finger to the tall guy with blonde hair cut to his chin, who is laughing with three other guys. That's his name? Tweety? Connor laughs but doesn't answer.
No, it's his hockey nickname. I'm not sure I even know his real name, actually.
She turns to Connor. He shrugs as if he doesn't know either, or he's not going to tell her.
He's your friend?
Penelope asks him. Connor nods.
Teammate?
Penelope's brows lift. Connor nods again.
Holy shit. Are you serious?
Penelope slaps the top of the booth cushion.
You don't even know it, do you?
She flips around and slides down on the vinyl couch, catching herself before her ass slips right off and she lands on the floor. No what? I ask with irritation.
You're sitting next to a Chicago Falcon.
She shakes her head and glances at Connor. Really? I ask because she could be too drunk, and these guys may look like them, but they can't actually be professional hockey players.
Yeah.
The blonde guy on the couch slides over next to Penelope with 2 shots in hand. He whispers something in her ear, and she downs one. I need to get us out of here. Wait here, I'm going to tell everyone we're leaving. I stand and stare at the dance floor, but the rest of our party is on the other side, and I really don't want to walk through all those sweaty bodies. I could send them a text. I mean, they're here out of obligation, but they took time out of their lives to come here and celebrate me, even if I think most of them don't like me very much. When I'm around them, I always feel as though I don't belong. A calloused hand falls onto mine.
I'll take you.
Connor says. I ignore the flutter in my stomach. What the fuck is that about? I'm going to be a married woman in a week. He tugs me forward, but I stop and look at Penelope, tugging her up by the hand and making us a chain of 3. The blonde guy protests, but I put out my hand. Stay. She's done. It's been fun, I say. Penelope's head lolls to the side. We only have a short amount of time before someone will have to carry her out of here.
Bye.
She mumbles and waves to the guy, who thankfully doesn't follow us. Connor weaves us through the crowd, and I'd be a liar if I said it wasn't hot the way people part for him. I think maybe I was the only one in this club who didn't know who he is. We stop in front of the other bridesmaids, and the guys they're with corral around Connor, competing to shake hands with him first. Each of them fawns over him as though he's the Bachelor and it's episode 1. I tell the other bridesmaids I'm taking Penelope back to the hotel, and they offer to come back too, though I say no. They're having fun and should stay. Plus, this way I can get Penelope settled and have some peace to myself instead of them thinking they have to entertain me. Penelope grows heavy behind me, tugging my hand down, and I know from our days in college that I'm on borrowed time. I say goodbye, wrap my arm around her shoulders, and walk us along the dance floor's perimeter toward the front door, leaving Connor with his wannabe entourage members. As I'm about to walk out the door, a big body comes along behind me, pushing it open.
Let me.
Connor's breath tickles the nape of my neck. Penelope and I stumble through, and Connor joins us on the sidewalk, flagging down a cab. I stand on the sidewalk as Penelope sinks further into my hold. Why are you still here? I ask.
You already forgot?
He moves his hand from left to right on his chest.
I'm a fixer.
The earth is spinning,
Penelope whispers. Her eyes fall closed, and her body goes limp right before she sways. Connor rushes over, catching her before she crashes her head onto the cement. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do now. I can't possibly carry Penelope around once it's time to get out of the cab. I consider calling Tristan for only about half a second. He'll be pissed if I interrupt his bachelor party with the guys, regardless of the situation. Connor opens the cab's back door and gets Penelope inside. Though I try not to, it's impossible not to notice all those muscles he has to use to push her to the other side. Then he straightens beside the car and holds the door open for me.
Your chariot awaits.
I have always dreamed of a yellow taxi, thank you. I cover my heart with my hand and slide in. Really, though, thanks for helping, and I hope you have a great season next year. I reach forward to grab the handle of the door, but he rounds the open door and moves to slide in next to me. Panic flares in my chest. What are you doing?
Coming with you?
He says it simply, as though it's obvious he would. No, you're not. He chuckles.
How else will you get her to your hotel room?
Though I know he's right, I still put up a fight. I'm resourceful.
I think I'm going to throw up.
Penelope pats the window with her open palm over and over again.
Open! Open!
I reach over her to press the window down button, and Connor uses the distraction to sit beside me and shut the door. Once Penelope's head hangs out the window like a dog with her tongue out of her mouth, though without the excited car trip energy, I turn back to Connor. You're not coming to our room.
Where to?
The cab driver asks.
Hurry!
Penelope groans. Connor raises his eyebrows at me. I growl and give the hotel name. Then the cab driver moves away from the curb into the Chicago nighttime traffic. Just so you know, I know Henry Hensley, I say, interrupting the silence.
You know Daddy?
My forehead wrinkles. Daddy? Is that another hockey name?
Yeah, Daddy.
His shoulders lift.
How do you know him?
He's my maid of honor's soon-to-be husband.
Jade? Now I have to help you.
I have it handled. Liar. I feel as though I don't have anything about my life handled these days. He leans forward and inspects Penelope. I follow his line of vision to find her eyes closed, and she's completely still. Unless I use a luggage cart, there's no way I'm getting her up to our room.
Do you really think so?
I huff. He laughs.
Listen, I'm not going to lie. You're hot as shit. But I get that you're about to marry some lucky bastard, so I'm not here to convince you to give me a shot. Hell, I'm not a relationship guy anyway, and I sure shit wouldn't want to ruin someone else's happiness. Henry's a great friend, and I love Jade, so let me help you get your friend to your room. Then we'll part ways, and maybe I'll run into you at a wedding or baby shower or something, and we'll share a laugh about tonight. But you don't have to worry about me trying to get into your pants. I'm honestly here to just help.
I lose the fight inside me because I'm defeated in more battles than just getting Penelope up to the hotel room tonight. Somehow my life has spun out of my control, and I'm not sure how to right myself. Lately, I feel as if I'm on the teacup ride, and it just keeps spinning and spinning, and there's no chance to get my bearings. Maybe it's just wedding jitters, and once it's over and we're on our honeymoon, all this dread and anxiety will go away. I sure hope so. Thank you. Really, I appreciate it, and I'm sorry for taking you away from your friends at the club. He shakes his head.
You're not taking me away from anything.
For the rest of the ride, I watch Penelope and the cab driver's GPS, eager to get to the hotel and out of the small confines of the cab because Connor's thigh is pressed to mine, and those butterflies aren't going away. They shouldn't even be fluttering. I'm marrying Tristan. He is the love of my life, right? The cab pulls up to the hotel, and Connor files out first. I nudge Penelope, and she mumbles something but falls on the seat. In the end, Connor picks her up and puts her over his shoulder. The three of us walk through the luxurious hotel lobby, pretending to ignore the stares from the reception staff.
I really hope I don't end up in the gossip blogs for this,
He says as we enter the elevator.
One girl slung over my shoulder with another at my side in a bride-to-be sash, going up to a hotel room isn't a good look.
My upcoming marriage would be over. Right before the doors slide shut, a young girl pops into view, holding out her phone, and the flash goes off.
Chapter 3. Connor.
Oh my God!
Eloise turns to me, her mouth hanging open. The doors slide shut, leaving the girl with the phone on the other side. I'm thankful she didn't jump in and join us.
That didn't just happen.
She flings her body across me, her finger pressing the lobby button, but the elevator is already ascending. The tip of her finger turns white as she presses the button non-stop.
I have to get that phone.
Is your hubby a hockey guy? I ask, repositioning Penelope on my shoulder. Damn, it's been a long time since I've carried a woman over my shoulder, especially one who's not coming to my bed. There's no way Eloise would have been able to handle her friend. She's completely dead weight.
Football, mostly, but he watches all those sports channels.
Her hands twist in front of her. I can't help but laugh, although I feel bad. Eloise looks so panicked, she's probably about to scale the wall and try to find her way through some vent to find that girl and destroy her phone. I'm sure he's not on the hockey blogs. That picture might be passed around to her friends and her social media followers, but I doubt your hubby will see it. And if you want me to talk to him...
God, no. He'd never understand this whole situation.
She circles her finger between us. Why do I love the way she's so animated? He wouldn't understand a guy helping a girl out of a bad situation. Sounds like her fiancé's a dick. She stares at the wall, watching the floor numbers as we approach their floor.
You're telling me you would be if I were your fiancé?
If I were ever to get married, I'd trust my fiancé. I would have hoped she'd called me.
It's his bachelor party tonight.
She cuts me off, and I get the sense she's used to making excuses for him. I wasn't implying anything.
I would have called him. It's just...
She doesn't finish her sentence, either because she doesn't want to, or because the elevator stops and the doors open on her floor. It's good she didn't finish, because I don't want to become more invested in the reason why she sat all alone in the VIP section and sipping water during her bachelorette party. It wasn't my place to get involved, although I inserted myself because I pride myself on being a nice guy. Now that I know Jade is her maid of honor, I know I was right in helping her. I deny the urge to ask more questions and instead follow her out of the elevator. I noticed Eloise the minute I arrived at the club and entered the VIP section filled with my teammates. There's no denying she's hot as fuck. Her ass and her black leather pants is a sight all on its own. But when I saw the sash and the QR code, it stopped my mind from envisioning her topless and on her knees in front of me. I'm not the kind of guy who tries to steal another guy's girl away, even if she looks like Eloise. But that doesn't mean I can't admire a beautiful woman. Eloise swipes her keycard and opens the hotel room door to reveal a suite.
If you don't mind putting her in the bedroom.
She walks through a door and I follow, seeing one king bed. Eloise pulls back the covers and I place Penelope on the bed. Then she takes off her friend's shoes and tucks her in, ensuring she's positioned on her side with a pillow lodged behind her back so she doesn't roll over. The way Eloise takes care of her friend is admirable. I've always thought there was a correlation between how a friend treats a friend and how they treat their significant other. I bet she loves them with all her heart and cares for them more than herself. I just hope that her fiancé isn't one of those douchebags who takes advantage of her giving nature.
I'll walk you out,
Eloise says, pulling me from admiring her. No need. I can see myself out. I turn to walk out of the room. She follows me.
Want a snack from the minibar?
I stop and turn around in the living area of the suite.
For the road, of course.
She quickly adds before I can say anything. A laugh slips from my throat because I'm starting to like her as a person. I wouldn't have thought otherwise, but I'm good, thanks. I'm hungry, but I need to get the hell out of here before I try to fix any more of her problems. She holds out a piece of chocolate.
At least take Penelope's pillow chocolate. It's the least she can do to pay you back.
I take the chocolate, and our fingers graze one another's. I ignore the softness of her touch. Not really, but I've got a sweet tooth, so I'll never deny chocolate.
I wouldn't have pegged you for a sweet tooth kind of guy.
What kind of guy did you peg me for? I hate how curious I am to hear her answer. She looks me in the eye long and hard, causing me to stare into her gray ones. How rare is that? I'm not sure I've ever seen someone with gray eyes. They look like cloudy skies with a hint of mystery, but they're still layered with warmth.
Beef jerky.
My attention is pulled back to our conversation. I like jerky, but I'd pick sweet over salty every time. I unwrap the chocolate and plop the goodness into my mouth. Damn, it's tasty.
You're enjoying it.
I swallow the chocolate and smile. It was really good.
Then let me give you mine.
She shifts to walk back into the bedroom, but I grab her hand. Believe me, you want yours? She stops and looks at my hand on her wrist. I drop my grip. I'm starting to wish she wasn't engaged, and that is a problem. Honestly, you're going to love it. She nods, which surprises me, and eyes the door again. Got it. I'm overstaying my welcome. It's been fun, Lulu. I walk backward. She rolls her eyes and shakes her head.
Thanks for all your help tonight. I hope you score a lot of whatever they're called this season.
This girl pulls more laughter from me than my teammates do in the locker room. I'm starting to feel like one of those annoying, giggling girls who approach me at a bar but are too nervous to have a conversation without acting as if everything I say is so damn funny. Goals, but I don't score them. Her head tilts and her forehead scrunches. She's fucking adorable. I need to get the hell out of here. I'm the goalie. I stop the goals. Her storm cloud eyes widen.
That's scary.
Her gaze flows down my body, and I realize that I like it a little too much. Dipshit, Open the door and get the fuck out of Dodge. Good thing I excel at what I do. She nods.
And there's that cocky hockey guy.
Excuse me?
Jade used to drag me to Henry's games, and afterward we'd wait for him. So many of his teammates wouldn't even bother with a good pickup line. They'd just assume I'd be into them because they play hockey. Your egos are huge.
I widen my stance and cross my arms. I don't miss the way her gaze lands on my biceps for a second before popping back up to my eyes. Because we play the toughest sport.
Bodies are flying all over the place in football.
Are you kidding me? We have to skate while hitting a small puck with a stick while checking players into the boards.
Not you, though. You stand in front of a net.
She smiles. I raise my eyebrows at her. You calling me out? Her smile fades.
I didn't mean it like that.
She holds her hands in the air.
Sorry.
Don't be. I shrug. Her gaze goes to the door again.
Well, good luck stopping all those goals this season. I'm sure you're a great blocker.
The best, I say, grabbing the cool metal doorknob. Good luck with the marriage thing. I'm sure you're great. I stop, and we both laugh, our minds going somewhere dirty. Wife. I'm sure you'll be a great wife.
Thank you.
I twist the doorknob and open the door. 3 girls are waiting, all poised with phones, ready to capture another photo. I slam the door shut.
Seriously?
She says, pushing me out of the way to look out the peephole.
Ugh, mine is all blurry.
One says.
Damn it. Mine was on panoramic.
Another one comments.
We're going to camp out here until he comes out.
The third one says. Eloise falls down onto her heels.
They're sitting along the wall waiting for you.
Who do you think she is?
One asks the other. Eloise cringes and rises to her tiptoes to get another look at them. I'm not sure they understand how loud they're talking.
You sure you don't want my chocolate? Because you're staying until they're gone.
She points at the door. In that case, let's raid the minibar. I step toward the small snack area, knowing this is a very bad idea, but I can't find the willpower to stop myself. Sure, I could call security and ask them to remove the girls, but I'm enjoying myself more than I have since I got traded to Chicago last year. So I'm going to stick around. Not because I'm trying to get Eloise in bed, but because I enjoy her company. No harm, no foul.